Queen Elizabeth I is one of the most famous monarchs in history. But how much do we really know about her? Here are 10 lesser-known but historically accurate facts about Elizabeth I. She was not expected to become queen. Elizabeth was the daughter of King Henry VIII and his second wife, Anne Boleyn. When Henry VIII died in 1547, the throne passed to his only legitimate son, Edward VI, who was 9 years old at the time. Edward ruled for 6 years and died in 1553, most likely from tuberculosis. Before his death, Edward attempted to change the line of succession to prevent his Catholic half-sister Mary from becoming queen. He named Lady Jane Grey as his successor. Jane reigned for only 9 days before Mary gathered support and claimed the throne. Mary I ruled England for 5 years. She died in 1558, most likely from abdominal cancer, possibly ovarian or uterine. She left no surviving children. Because the order of succession had already been established by Henry VIII, Elizabeth legally became queen after Mary's death. Before her accession, Elizabeth lived under constant suspicion. During Wyatt's rebellion in 1554, which opposed Mary's proposed marriage to Philip of Spain, Elizabeth was suspected of involvement. She was imprisoned in the Tower of London and later placed under house arrest. However, she was never convicted of treason and was never sentenced to death. And this is only the beginning. If you enjoy thoughtful history, stay with this channel and subscribe. 9. She honored her mother quietly. Elizabeth was the daughter of Anne Boleyn, who was executed in 1536. Anne Boleyn was not Henry VIII's mistress in the conventional sense. She refused a sexual relationship with the king until marriage, which ultimately led to Henry's break with the Catholic Church. As queen, Elizabeth rarely spoke publicly about her mother. This was a careful political choice, as Anne Boleyn remained a controversial figure. Openly celebrating her could have provoked criticism and unrest. However, Elizabeth did honor her mother in subtle ways. She promoted members of the Boleyn family within her court. She also owned a ring containing miniature portraits of herself and Anne Boleyn inside it. This ring still exists today and is preserved at Chequers, the official country residence of the British Prime Minister. There is no historical evidence that Elizabeth wore a pendant or necklace displaying her mother's image in public portraits. 8. She was a strong ruler, but not without flaws. Elizabeth I reigned for 44 years, from 1558 to 1603. She was never overthrown and maintained stability during a time of religious and political tension. Her reign is often remembered for restoring relative religious balance after decades of conflict. She avoided large-scale religious persecution and sought moderation between Catholics and Protestants, though intolerance and punishment still existed under her rule. Elizabeth was skilled in diplomacy and cautious in warfare. She preferred delay and negotiation, often making decisions at the last possible moment. Some contemporaries viewed this as indecision, but many historians now see it as a deliberate political strategy. She was also highly conscious of her image. Elizabeth valued flattery and carefully controlled how she appeared in portraits, approving only those that presented her in an idealized and powerful form. 7. She was known as the Virgin Queen for political reasons. In the medieval and early modern world, monarchs were expected to marry in order to secure alliances and produce heirs. Queen Elizabeth II never married and had no children, which was highly unusual for a ruler of her time. Over the years, she became known as the Virgin Queen. This image was carefully shaped and used as political symbolism rather than proof of her private life. Elizabeth presented herself as married to her kingdom, a message that strengthened her authority and independence. Parliament repeatedly urged her to marry, but Elizabeth resisted. In one well-known statement, she declared that she was already bound to England. Remaining unmarried allowed her to avoid foreign influence, prevent internal power struggles, and keep full control of her rule. There is no reliable historical evidence to support extreme theories about her identity or private life. Historians agree that her decision not to marry was primarily political and strategic. 6. She was the last Tudor monarch. Queen Elizabeth I was the last ruler of the House of Tudor. The Tudor dynasty began with Henry VII in 1485 and ended with Elizabeth's death in 1603. Although Elizabeth left no direct heirs, the Tudor bloodline did not disappear entirely. The crown passed to James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England. He was the great-grandson of Henry VII through his daughter Margaret Tudor. Elizabeth's long and stable reign ensured a peaceful transition of power, something that had been rare in previous generations. 5. Her diet damaged her health. Sugar was an expensive luxury in the 16th century, affordable only to the wealthy. Elizabeth I consumed large amounts of it, and contemporaries noted her fondness for sweet foods. This habit severely affected her dental health. By the later years of her life, many of her teeth were decayed or missing. Poor dental hygiene and the lack of modern medicine worsened the problem. To maintain her appearance, she sometimes used padding in her cheeks to hide the sunken look caused by tooth loss. Portraits from her later reign were idolized and carefully controlled to conceal signs of aging and illness. 4. She was highly educated and multilingual. Elizabeth I received an exceptional education for a woman of her time. She was fluent in Latin and French and had strong knowledge of Italian. She could also read Greek and had some understanding of Spanish. Her linguistic abilities allowed her to communicate directly with foreign diplomats and scholars without relying entirely on interpreters. This strengthened her position in diplomatic negotiations and reinforced her reputation as an intelligent and capable ruler. Elizabeth valued learning throughout her life and used her education as a tool of governance rather than display. 3. She supported poor relief through law. Elizabeth I was aware of the growing poverty in England, especially as population growth, inflation, and poor harvests placed pressure on lower classes. While direct charity from the monarch was limited and symbolic, her reign is significant for formalizing state responsibility for the poor. In 1601, Parliament passed the Elizabethan Poor Law, which created a structured system of poor relief funded by local taxes. It distinguished between those unable to work, those able to work, and vagrants, and required each parish to provide assistance. This law did not eliminate poverty, but it established the foundation of social welfare in England and remained influential for centuries. 2. Her appearance was carefully constructed. Elizabeth I placed great importance on her public image. Court ceremonies required elaborate preparation, and her appearance was never accidental. Dressing the Queen involved multiple attendants, layers of clothing, wigs, jewelry, and carefully applied cosmetics. As she aged, Elizabeth used white lead-based makeup, common at the time, to conceal scars from illness and signs of aging. These substances were toxic and likely damaged her skin over time. Her wardrobe was vast and extremely valuable, serving as a political tool rather than personal indulgence. Clothing symbolized authority, wealth, and stability. Records show she owned hundreds of gowns and thousands of accessories, including gloves, which were frequently given as diplomatic gifts. 1. Her death was physical, not emotional. Elizabeth I died on 24th March 1603 at the age of 69. While she experienced grief in her final years and reportedly showed signs of withdrawal and exhaustion, there is no medical evidence that she died of sadness or depression. Modern historians believe her death was caused by natural illness, possibly blood poisoning, pneumonia, or complications related to poor dental health and infection. Accounts describe her refusing to lie down near the end of her life, but such behavior is consistent with severe illness rather than emotional collapse. Her death marked the end of the Tudor reign. She was buried in Westminster Abbey, and the crown passed peacefully to James VI of Scotland, beginning the Stuart dynasty. Thank you for watching. If you value history told carefully and accurately, consider staying with this channel and subscribing. The past deserves precision as much as curiosity.